Have you ever been treated like a burden by your own family, only to discover you held all the power the entire time? Have you ever had people assume you were taking advantage of someone, when you were actually the one being taken advantage of? Well, this is my story, and I guarantee the ending will leave you absolutely speechless. My name is Sarah, I'm 28 years old, and I'm a freelance graphic designer. For the past 5 years, I lived with my grandmother Eleanor, taking care of her as her dementia progressed. To my family, especially my uncles, Robert and Patricia, I was just the loser granddaughter who was taking advantage of an old woman for free housing. What they didn't know was that Grandma had made sure I'd never be homeless again, and that very soon, they'd discover exactly who really owned the house they thought belonged to them. This story begins on what should have been the saddest day of my life, my grandmother's funeral, but it turned into something much more complicated when my family revealed their true intentions. I had been living with Grandma Eleanor since I was 23. Right after college, I had moved in initially just to help out after her first stroke, but as her condition worsened, I became her full-time caregiver. Sarah, she had told me during one of her lucid moments, "You're the only one who really cares about me." "That's not true, Grandma. The whole family loves you. They love the idea of me. Honey, they love what I might leave them. But you love me." Those words broke my heart because I knew they were true. During those 5 years, I watched my uncles Robert and Patricia visit maybe once every 3 months. They'd stay for an hour, ask how Grandma was doing, and then leave. But they always made sure to comment on my living situation. "Sarah's so lucky she doesn't have to pay rent," Patricia would say to Robert, loud enough for me to hear. "Well, someone has to take care of Mom," Robert would reply. "Might as well be someone who benefits from it." They never acknowledged that I had given up my social life, my dating life, and countless work opportunities to be there 24/7. They never mentioned that I was the one getting up at 3 a.m. when Grandma had nightmares, or that I was the one who made sure she took her medications, or that I was the one who held her hand during her worst moments. To them, I was just a family member who had figured out how to live rent-free. But what they didn't understand was that taking care of Grandma wasn't a burden I had accepted for free housing. It was a privilege I had chosen out of love. "Sarah," Grandma would say during her good days, "what are you going to do when I'm gone?" "Don't talk like that, Grandma. Honey, we both know I'm not getting better, and I worry about you. This house, after I'm gone, Robert and Patricia are going to want to sell it. We'll figure it out when the time comes." "No, we need to figure it out now." 2 years before Grandma passed away, she had what turned out to be her last, truly lucid week. During that week, she made a decision that would change everything. "Sarah," she called me into her room one morning, "I need you to drive me somewhere today." "Where do you want to go, Grandma?" "To see Mr. Davidson, my lawyer." "Your lawyer? Is everything okay?" "Everything's going to be okay. That's why we're going." Mr. Davidson had been Grandma's attorney for over 30 years. He was a kind man in his 70s who had handled all of her legal affairs since Grandpa died. "Eleanor," he greeted her warmly when we arrived at his office. "How are you feeling?" "I'm having a good week, Harold, and I need to take care of some business while my mind is clear." "Of course. What can I help you with?" "I want to transfer the deed of my house to Sarah." I was shocked. "Grandma, you don't need to do that." "Yes, I do, Harold. Is this something we can do today?" "Well, yes, but Eleanor, this is a big decision." "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." Mr. Davidson looked at me. "Sarah, do you understand what your grandmother is proposing?" I think so. But Grandma, what about Uncle Robert and Aunt Patricia? What about them?" Grandma asked. "Have they been here taking care of me for 5 years? Have they given up their lives to make sure I'm safe and comfortable?" "No buts, honey. This house should go to someone who actually loves it, someone who's made it a home, not just an investment." "Eleanor," Mr. Davidson said gently, "I have to ask, are you doing this of your own free will? No one is pressuring you." "Harold, you've known me for 30 years. Have you ever known me to be pressured into anything?" He laughed. "That's true. You've always been the most stubborn woman." "No." "Then you know I'm doing this because it's what I want to do." The paperwork took about 2 hours. Mr. Davidson explained everything carefully. The transfer would be immediate and irrevocable. The house would legally belong to me, but Grandma would retain the right to live there for the rest of her life. "Sarah," Mr. Davidson said as we signed the final documents, "this house is now yours. The deed will be recorded with the county tomorrow." "Do you understand what this means?" "I think so, It means you're not just living here, you own here. This is your property. When we got home, Grandma seemed relieved. Grandma, are you sure about this? Sarah, in my whole life, I've never been more sure of anything. You've given me 5 years of your life. You've sacrificed everything to take care of me. This house isn't payment, it's recognition. What if Uncle Robert and Aunt Patricia get upset? Let them get upset. They'll get over it. But what if they don't? Then that's their problem, not yours. We agreed to keep the transfer private. Grandma said she didn't want to deal with family drama while she was still alive, and I respected that decision. When the time comes, she told me, you'll have the paperwork you need. Until then, this stays between us and Harold. Grandma passed away peacefully on a Tuesday morning in October. I was holding her hand when she took her last breath. Even though we knew it was coming, the loss was devastating. The funeral was beautiful. The whole family came. Uncles, aunts, cousins I hadn't seen in years. Everyone shared memories of Grandma, talked about how much they'd miss her, and how grateful they were that I had been there to take care of her. Sarah, Uncle Robert said to me after the service, we can't thank you enough for everything you did for Mom. She was my grandmother. I loved her. We know, and we're grateful, really. What you did was incredible, added Aunt Patricia. Taking care of her all those years, we know it wasn't easy. For a moment, I thought maybe I had been wrong about them. Maybe they really did appreciate what I had done. But then, I overheard a conversation that changed everything. I was in the kitchen at Grandma's house, my house, though they didn't know that yet, cleaning up after the post-funeral gathering, when I heard Uncle Robert and Aunt Patricia talking in the living room. So what's the timeline for getting the house on the market? Patricia was asking. I'll call a realtor next week, Robert replied. The market's good right now. We should be able to get at least $400,000 for it. What about Sarah? What about her? Well, she's been living here for 5 years. We can't just kick her out immediately. Patricia, she's 28 years old. She needs to get her own place anyway. We'll give her 30 days to find somewhere else. Do you think she'll fight us on it? Fight us on what? She has no legal claim to this house. She was just living here as a caregiver. I know, but still, 5 years is a long time. Look, we'll be nice about it. We'll even help her with moving expenses. But this house belongs to the family, and we need to sell it. How much do you think each of us will get? After taxes and realtor fees, probably $120,000 each. Not bad for doing nothing. They both laughed. I stood in the kitchen, listening to them plan to kick me out of my own house so they could split money that would never be theirs. The audacity was breathtaking. But I didn't say anything, not yet. The next week, Uncle Robert called me. Sarah, we need to talk. Can Patricia and I come over tonight? Sure. What's this about? Just some family business we need to discuss. They arrived at 7 p.m. with serious expressions and a manila folder. Sarah, Robert began, we want you to know how much we appreciate everything you did for Mom. Thank you. But now we need to talk about practical matters. Patricia added, about the house. What about the house? Well, honey, you know this house belongs to the family now, and we've decided we need to sell it. Sell it, yes. The real estate market is really good right now, and none of us can afford to maintain a property this size. I've been maintaining it just fine. We know, sweetie. But that's different. You were living here as Mom's caregiver. Now that she's gone, now that she's gone. What? Robert opened the manila folder. We've talked to a lawyer, and we need to make this official. We're giving you 30 days to find alternative housing. He handed me a document. It was an eviction notice. An eviction notice? You're evicting me. It's just a formality, Patricia said quickly. We're not trying to be mean. We just need to protect everyone's interests. Whose interests? The family's interests. This house is worth a lot of money. Sarah, we can't just let it sit here. So you're kicking me out. We're giving you time to transition. Robert corrected. 30 days is reasonable. I looked at the eviction notice. It was signed by a lawyer named James Thompson. You hired a lawyer to evict me. We had to make sure everything was done properly, Robert said. Mr. Thompson specializes in estate law. He's helping us navigate the legal aspects. What legal aspects? Well, technically, you've been living here without a lease or any formal agreement, so legally, you're what's called a tenant at will. We have the right to terminate that arrangement with proper notice. I see. Sarah, we're not trying to be cruel, Patricia said. We know this is hard, but you have to understand, this house is our inheritance. It's not fair for one person to benefit while the rest of the family gets nothing. And you think I've been benefiting? Well, yes. You've been living rent-free for 5 years. Rent-free, yes. And we're not asking you to pay back rent or anything. We're just asking you to find your own place now. How generous of you. Sarah, there's no need to be sarcastic. We're trying to handle this as fairly as possible. I folded the eviction notice and put it on the coffee table. Is there anything else? Well, yes. We'd like to schedule a meeting with Mr. Thompson next week, just to make sure everyone understands the timeline and the legal requirements. A meeting, yes. Wednesday at 2 p.m. If that works for you? Wednesday at 2 p.m. works fine. After they left, I sat in Grandma's living room, my living room, and laughed. Actually laughed out loud. They had no idea what they had just walked into. The next morning, I called Mr. Davidson. Sarah, I'm so sorry for your loss. Your grandmother was a wonderful woman. Thank you, Mr. Davidson. I'm calling because I need your help, of course. What's going on? I told them about the eviction notice and the planned meeting with their lawyer. They're trying to evict you from your own house. Apparently. Do they know about the deed transfer? No. Grandma and I kept it private, like we agreed. Well, this should be interesting. Do you want me to attend this meeting? Actually, I have a different idea. Can you prepare copies of all the paperwork? The deed, the transfer documents, everything. Of course. What are you planning? I'm planning to let them dig their hole a little deeper before I bury them in it. Mr. Davidson chuckled. Your grandmother would be proud. Wednesday arrived, and so did Uncle Robert, Aunt Patricia, and their lawyer, Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thompson was a man in his 50s, wearing an expensive suit and carrying a leather briefcase. He had the kind of confidence that comes from thinking you're the smartest person in the room. Miss Sarah, he said, shaking my hand. I'm James Thompson. I'm representing your family in this matter. Nice to meet you. I want you to know that we're going to handle this as professionally and compassionately as possible. I appreciate that. We sat down in the living room, the same living room where I had overheard Robert and Patricia planning to sell my house. Now then, Mr. Thompson began, opening his briefcase. Let's review the situation. You've been residing in this property for approximately 5 years. Is that correct? That's correct. And during that time, you were serving as an informal caregiver for the deceased, Eleanor Matthews. I was taking care of my grandmother. Yes, right? And you were not paying rent during this period. No. And you had no formal lease agreement or written permission to occupy the property. No written lease. No, I see. And you understand that this property is now part of Eleanor Matthews' estate. I understand that's what you believe. Mr. Thompson paused. I'm sorry, what do you mean by that? I mean, I understand that you believe this property is part of my grandmother's estate. Miss Sarah, it's not a matter of belief. It's a matter of legal fact. This property was owned by Eleanor Matthews at the time of her death, which makes it part of her estate. Do you have documentation proving that? Mr. Thompson looked confused. Documentation proving what? Documentation proving that my grandmother owned this property at the time of her death. Well, yes, of course. We have the original deed from when she purchased the property in 1987. The original deed from 1987. Yes. Mr. Thompson, are you familiar with the concept of property transfers? Of course I am. I'm an estate attorney. Good then. You know that property ownership can change, even if the original owner continues to live in the property. Mr. Thompson's confidence wavered slightly. Miss Sarah, are you suggesting that your grandmother transferred ownership of this property before her death? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm asking if you've done a current title search. A current title search? Yes, to verify current ownership. Uncle Robert interrupted. Sarah, what are you talking about? Of course, Mom owned the house. She lived here for 35 years. Living somewhere and owning somewhere aren't always the same thing, Uncle Robert. Mr. Thompson was starting to look uncomfortable. Ms. Sarah, if you have information about any property transfers, you need to disclose that now. I don't need to disclose anything, Mr. Thompson, but you might want to check the county records before you proceed with this eviction. The county records? Yes. Specifically, you might want to look up any recorded deeds for this property from the past 2 years. The room went silent. Sarah, Patricia said slowly, what are you saying? I'm saying that maybe you should have done your homework before hiring a lawyer to evict someone. Mr. Thompson was now visibly nervous. Ms. Sarah, are you claiming to have some legal interest in this property? I'm not claiming anything. I'm stating a fact. I got up and walked to the kitchen, where I had left the folder Mr. Davidson had prepared for me. When I returned, everyone was staring at me. Mr. Thompson, I said, sitting back down. You mentioned that you specialize in estate law. Yes, then you should recognize this. I handed him the deed. He took it and began reading. His face went from confident to confused to horrified in about 30 seconds. This is a warranty deed. Yes. Dated 2 years ago. Yes. Transferring ownership of this property from Eleanor Matthews to you. Yes. And it's been recorded with the county. Yes. Uncle Robert grabbed the document from Mr. Thompson's hands. What is this? It's the deed to this house. Uncle Robert. My deed? Your deed? Yes. Grandma transferred ownership to me 2 years ago. Patricia looked like she was going to faint. That's impossible. It's not impossible. It's documented. Mr. Thompson was frantically flipping through the pages. This looks legitimate. It is legitimate. But why didn't you mention this before? You didn't ask. We assumed what? You assumed that because I was living here as a caregiver, I had no legal rights to the property. You assumed that because I'm young and don't have a law degree, I didn't understand property law. You assumed that you could intimidate me into leaving my own house. The silence in the room was deafening. Mr. Thompson was studying the deed like he was trying to find some flaw in it. Uncle Robert and Aunt Patricia were staring at me like I had just told them I was an alien. Sarah, Robert finally said, when did this happen? 2 years ago. Why didn't Mom tell us? Because she knew you'd react exactly like this. Like what? Like you're reacting now. With shock and anger that she chose to give her house to someone who actually took care of her, instead of someone who visited 3 times a year. Patricia found her voice. But we're her children. Yes, you are. And I'm her granddaughter who spent 5 years making sure she was never alone, never scared, and never neglected. That doesn't give you the right to steal our inheritance. I didn't steal anything. Grandma gave me this house because she wanted to, because she knew I loved her, not her money. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. I need to make a phone call. To whom? Robert asked. To the county clerk's office. To verify this deed. Go ahead, I said. The recording number is right there on the first page. Mr. Thompson stepped outside to make his call. While he was gone, Robert and Patricia stared at me like they were seeing me for the first time. Sarah, Patricia said, you have to understand how this looks. How does it look? Like you manipulated an elderly woman with dementia into giving you her house. Is that what you think happened? What else are we supposed to think? You're supposed to think that a woman who spent 35 years in this house decided to give it to the person who loved it and cared for it, instead of the people who saw it as a dollar sign. That's not fair. What's not fair is you trying to evict me from my own house. We didn't know it was your house. You didn't bother to find out. You just assumed you could push me around because I'm younger and because you think I'm weak. Mr. Thompson came back inside, and his expression told the whole story. The deed is valid, he announced. It was properly executed and recorded 2 years ago. So what does that mean? Robert asked. It means Ms. Sarah is the legal owner of this property. It means you have no claim to it. And it means, he paused and looked at me. It means I just attempted to evict someone from their own house. So we get nothing? Patricia asked. You get nothing from this house, I confirmed, because this house was never part of Grandma's estate. She didn't own it when she died, but she lived here. Yes, she lived here, in my house, because I let her. The reality was finally sinking in. Mr. Thompson, Robert said desperately, isn't there something we can do? Some way to challenge this? Mr. Thompson shook his head. The deed is valid. It was executed when Mrs. Matthews was competent. I can see from the documentation that she had a mental capacity evaluation done the same day. Everything was done properly. What about undue influence? Patricia suggested. Sarah was living here, taking care of her. She could have pressured Mom into this. Do you have any evidence of undue influence? Mr. Thompson asked. Well, no, but then no. You can't challenge a valid deed just because you don't like the outcome. I stood up. I think this meeting is over. Sarah, wait, Robert said. Can we talk about this as a family? What's to talk about? This house, it's been in our family for 35 years. And now it's going to be in the family for another 35 years. In my part of the family. But what about us? What about you? Don't we deserve something? Uncle Robert, let me ask you something. In the past 5 years, how many nights did you spend in this house taking care of Grandma? That's not the point. It's exactly the point. How many times did you get up at 3 a.m. because she was having nightmares? How many doctor's appointments did you take her to? How many times did you hold her hand when she was scared and confused? Sarah, the answer is 0. You did none of those things, but you think you deserve to profit from her death. We're her children, and I'm her granddaughter who actually loved her. Mr. Thompson was packing up his briefcase. I need to leave. This is not what I was hired for. What were you hired for? I asked. I was hired to handle a simple eviction of a tenant with no legal standing, and instead, I just learned that my clients tried to evict a property owner from her own house. He turned to Robert and Patricia. I can't represent you in this matter. In fact, I'd recommend you consult with another attorney about potential liability issues. Liability issues? Robert asked. You attempted to evict someone from property they legally owned. Depending on Miss Sarah's response, that could constitute harassment, intentional infliction of emotional distress, or worse. After Mr. Thompson left, Uncle Robert and Aunt Patricia sat in stunned silence. Sarah, Patricia finally said, what happens now? Now you leave my house. But we're family. Family doesn't try to make family homeless. We didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't care enough to find out. You just assumed you could push me around. What if we apologize? What if you don't? Sarah, please, we made a mistake. You made a choice. You chose to see me as an obstacle to your inheritance, instead of as a person who sacrificed 5 years of her life for someone she loved. We can make this right. How? We don't know, but we can try. I looked at them, really looked at them. They were scared. For the first time in their lives, they had underestimated someone, and it had backfired spectacularly. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to leave my house. You're going to stop telling people that I took advantage of Grandma, and you're going to think very carefully about how you treat people in the future. And if we do that, then maybe someday we can have a relationship again, but it's going to be on my terms, not yours. They left that day and didn't come back. 3 months later, I got a call from Aunt Patricia. Sarah, it's Patricia. Can we talk? What about us, about the family? What about the family? We miss you. We miss having you in our lives. You tried to evict me from my own house. We know, and we're sorry. We were wrong. About what? Specifically, about everything. About thinking you were taking advantage of Mom. About assuming we had rights to her house. About treating you like you didn't matter. And about not appreciating what you did for her. Taking care of her all those years. We couldn't have done that. No, you couldn't have. We want to make things right. How? We don't know. Tell us how. I thought about it for a moment. Aunt Patricia, do you know what Grandma used to say about this house? What? She used to say that houses aren't just buildings. They're homes, and homes belong to the people who make them homes. That sounds like her. She gave me this house because I made it a home for her, not because I was trying to get something from her, but because I genuinely loved being here with her. We understand that now. Do you? Yes, and we're sorry it took us so long to see it. Apology accepted. Really. But things are different now. We know. I'm not the same person you tried to push around 3 months ago. We can see that. Good, because that person is never coming back. Today, 2 years after Grandma's death, I still live in the house she gave me. I've turned the spare bedroom into a design studio, and I'm doing better than ever professionally. My relationship with Uncle Robert and Aunt Patricia is slowly improving. They've learned to treat me with respect, and I've learned to forgive without forgetting. But the most important thing I learned from this experience is that sometimes the people who love you most are the ones who see your value even when others don't. Grandma knew that Robert and Patricia would try to push me out after she died. That's why she made sure I had the legal protection I needed. She knew they saw me as weak and naive, and she made sure I had the power to prove them wrong. They tried to evict me from Grandma's house, thinking I was just a tenant with no rights. But when their lawyer saw the recorded deed, he realized he was trying to evict a homeowner from her own property. The look on his face when he realized his mistake was priceless, but the look on my uncle and aunt's faces when they realized they had underestimated me was even better. Sometimes, the best defense against people who underestimate you is simply being prepared for the moment when they reveal their true intentions. And sometimes, the greatest gift someone can give you isn't money or property. It's the legal documentation that proves you were right all along.